What's up, guys? Today we are going to do an HTML tutorial because I'm insanely bored. But in all fairness, right, and seriousness, coding and things like that, or I guess you can't really consider HTML specifically coding, but it's the way of the world, right? There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of growth that comes from these kinds of things, and I think it's a good skill to learn, especially with all the free time that we kind of have on our hands right now. So feel free to dive right in. Just to kind of a couple upfront things, right? So anytime you're working on several HTML projects, there's bits that come with HTML, so you can kind of see this is a project that I have. This is the HTML file, and then there's a couple of other files that you have to connect to, right, to make the bells and whistles and things like that go on. This is how this page looks. So built this from the ground up, kind of show you what we start with here in a second, but what this is kind of like I've actually created an RNG, or random number generator, and it's a time killer. Essentially, you can kind of choose rock, paper, or scissors, and based on the value that you're picking and then the value that the computer is running on a number generator, it'll either tell you if you guys matched, if you win, or if you lose. So it's kind of a cool time waster. So the goal would be to kind of teach you guys how to do these kinds of things. But nevertheless, before we get started, let's go ahead and get a new folder in. And what that new folder is going to serve for us is, let's just call it web page for now. Now we can go through and rename everything once we kind of identify a purpose of this. Is just like that other project, we're going to store everything within this folder. The next thing you need is something to write your HTML in. I use Notepad++, which I'll kind of link in the description. A download for that is completely free and open source. You can use regular Notepad. There's tons of applications you use to write HTML or JavaScript or CSS, things like that. Shop around. I like to use HTML just because it's what I'm used to. So the first thing we want to do, there's two things, right? So before we forget, let's go ahead and identify the doc type. So this is going to be an HTML document, and then we're going to save it. So it's important when you go to save it, there's two things, right? So you're going to do save as. For now, let's just going to call it the index, right? Because this is where we're going to index. It's going to be your guide for everything that we do on the whatever you want to call it, the web page. So now we're going to go find that folder, index. And then the last thing we want to make sure we do is put .html, so we know that it's an HTML file, or so the computer knows that it's an HTML file. So that's done. Let's go ahead and open up, and then you can kind of see what we're working with. Right here we have just a purely blank canvas, so you can see it's the index.html file. There's not anything else really going on here, so we'll just minimize that for now, close that out, hop back into it. Okay, so HTML, just kind of bare bones. There's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4-ish main tags is what they're called that you kind of want to focus on in this video. And what a tag is for HTML specifically, a tag is what's going to body certain groups or certain texts and things like that together. If something is within a specific tag, and be that between CSS or Java or HTML, there's tons and all sorts of different tags. I don't know what they all are, but these ones are pretty simple. So the first one we want is HTML tags. So that's kind of what your tag is going to look like. And then for most, I don't want to say all, but for most tags, you're always going to need a / and then that tag to end. So you can kind of see that these are highlighting together, and they are being grouped together. So the computer knows that this is the beginning of the tag, and this is the end of the tag. So what this HTML tag, what it serves the purpose of, is it's saying everything within here is going to be rooted to the HTML of this file. So good. And then again, what HTML is, so I've mentioned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So JavaScript, or let's start with HTML. So HTML is kind of, if you would think of a website, it's like your bare bones. So like it's very, very plain. And it's not really like a coding language, right? It's more, it's hypertext markup language. So essentially what you're doing is you're marking where you want things to go and what you want it to say, kind of thing. What CSS is styling. So HTML will kind of give you your outline of a web page. Your CSS will kind of add colors, paddings, and things like that, backgrounds. So And again, padding is one of those things you would think of like a margin or like centering left and right, things like that are very specifically. And then the JavaScript is high level. You can think of it as like bells and whistles of a web page. So like when you hover over something and it expands, or you click it, or music, or things like that. That's kind of what those three things are, and that's kind of where we're going to start working. But obviously, we'll start with HTML, which is the bare bones one. So the first tag that we're going to put in here is called the head. And then, again, it's going to need an end tag here. So within the head, you can put a number of different things. Usually this is where you'll call out your CSS files or your JavaScript files, things like that, or any URLs. For now, we're going to put a title tag. And then for now, we're just going to call this a dummy web page. Oh, we went too high there. So dummy web page. Can't type today. Title. So close that off. All right. What's nice about HTML or Notepad++ or really anything that you're working on is if you save the file, you can go back to where the source is outputting, and you can kind of refresh it right away. So it's like, hey, we just put a title in there, but it's not here. So that specific title in the head, what it's referring to is your internet tab here. So you can kind of see that now it says dummy web page up top. So that's kind of what that header is referring to. So whatever you want your tab, your internet tab to say, that's what that's going to be. So whenever you go through different web pages on your computer and you see different tabs, they're all linked to this title tag right here. So that's kind of interesting. And that's actually all we're going to put in the head for now. So again, we're not working with CSS or anything yet. The next tag is going to be the body. So that's kind of the, again, think of your basic document. You have like your head or the top of the paper, and then you have your body, and then you also have a footer. We won't get anything with a footer today, so it's not really necessary, but we'll kind of go through the head and the body. So the first thing we're going to put in the body is going to be a header. So we'll jump into header. Again, you have to have a header and then the backslash or forward slash here. So say this is a header of a web page. Cool. So let's save that, and then let's do another refresh. And then again, always check your work, right? So this is what your header looks like here as a blank header. Now within that header though, there's a couple things that we can do. So let's go ahead and go backwards. So within this header, you can have what's called an H1. So, because again, you have your body of your paper, you'd have your head and header, and then it kind of goes down from there towards the bottom. H1 would be like a header, or like a title of like a paragraph and things like that. If you would kind of think like a document. So H1 will say this is our header. Ooh, header H1. Now we save it, and then let's do, oops, I closed it out. Let's do a quick refresh. And you can kind of see that now it's a little bit larger and a little bit more bold. So you can add multiple headers as much as you want into a web page. Without CSS, and this is kind of a cool little thing to see how HTML on its own reacts. Let's just add in a couple headers. So the way you do that is we had header 1, and we're going to go header 2, 3, 4, things like that. And so on and so forth. But let me show you, because it is kind of cool, what happens naturally. We'll just do 3. As you create these headers, save that. And let's do a refresh. So you can kind of see our 3 dots that we just put in. So header 1, header 2, header 3 here. And what's interesting is without any CSS, without us making a file that says, hey, take this header and give it this design or give it this specific size or font or color, it will be like by default HTML. It'll kind of shrink your headers as you go along. So that's kind of cool. So let's just title these for now so we can kind of see the difference here. We'll just say header 1, header 2, header 3. Okay, so again, within a header, or you can kind of think of with your web page, let's put a P tag, and a P tag would kind of link to exactly what you think it is as paragraph. So we'll say this is P tag for header 1, and then let's just go ahead and put all of those in as well here. This is p tag for header 2/p. And then what's nice about these ones as well is you don't have to label them. You have to label them P1, P2, because it just reads it as a line of text. This is p tag for header 3. Okay. And then let's kind of refresh and see how that looks. I keep closing that out. It's a pain. So now you can kind of see, here's your header 1, here's your p tag, here's your header 2, here's your p tag, here's your header 3, here's your p tag. And then you can also see that there's always like a set amount of indentation between each one. Again, that's something that we, HTML will kind of say, this is the assumption, or this is kind of the base value of it, and then you can always change it with CSS and things like that. I'm not going to close it this time. Cool. So that's really the main point of everything today. So really what we're going to do for now is let's go through the different headers. So let's just make a couple of different things. So our next video, we want to add a little bit of CSS just to take the exact info we have. So let's just put a reminder in here to add CSS. For header 1, we'll just say header 1, change color, change size. And then header 2 and 3, we want it to match color and size. Just to kind of show you guys, we'll probably do colors or whatever first. Let's do font also, and font. Match color, size, and font. That works. Just to kind of show you that you can set them up however you want in fonts. And we'll center all of it as well and things like that. For the tags, we'll say different color from header, same size, all tags, and font, all p tags. Cool. Save that. And then again, remember, you can always refresh and check your work. Your math teacher always said check your work, and this is something that can kind of be useful in. So you can kind of see, this is what we'll go over the next video. But for right now, you've kind of learned very quickly how to kind of bare bones build an HTML file. So this is kind of your framework for everything else that's to come. So super exciting. Make sure you guys leave a like and a comment so I can stay motivated to do what I'm doing. This is something I'm passionate about, so I'd love to keep on doing it. Hopefully someone gets some value out of it and starts learning a little bit. And then as always, right, just reach out to me if you guys need anything. Check the description. There will be some downloads and things like that, referrals. Just kind of root back to some of this information. So cool. Thanks for watching.